Flip now has MIDI in and out. Here is how it works. So we've got this new icon that looks like a 5-pin MIDI port. Tap on that to enter the MIDI configuration overlay and menu. The first thing you're going to want to do is tap this gear icon so you can make sure all your input and output settings are correct. So I have got the iRig Pro Duo I/O as my audio and MIDI interface here. So the trigger finger MIDI controller's MIDI out is going to the iRig, and that is connected to my iPhone. So I want to make sure that MIDI notes are coming in from the iRig Pro Duo. Now I should be able to tap on any parameter and assign a pad or a knob or a slider like this. Just exit MIDI there. Look at that, we are triggering that sample pad. Now I'm gonna go back in here, show you some knobs. We can set frequency. How about delay time? Let's also assign this pad. And just like that, all our assignments are working. Now you can see on all of these pages, anything that is highlighted in red is something that you can select to make a mapping to. And just tapping on something is the easiest way to pull it up in the menu. You can, if you want, go to any individual channel and choose a parameter, but it's usually faster to do it this way. Although, it's good to note that there is a global submenu here, and some of this stuff you can't access anyway except in this global page. And those are just navigational items. So I could, for instance, assign notes to change pages or go to specific pages. And we have that here because in the MIDI mapping mode, you can still use these page buttons to change pages. But to show you an example, let's say open next page is assigned to this pad. Now, when I hit this pad, we just cycle through our pages. You can delete any individual mapping. You just have to select it, and then in the main menu, press delete. Whatever you're selected on will be selected in the menu. So I can delete these mappings like this. I can also hit this trash icon up here to delete all of my mappings if I want to do that. And by the way, any mappings that you set are global. That means they apply to all your projects, which is just easier. You know, you'll have your MIDI controller set up to work with Flip and not have to set it up for every individual project you have in the app. All right, let's go back to a knob parameter, and I'm going to assign it. And I want to show you that you can set the range for that parameter. You can set a low range and a high range, and I'll exit this so you can see it better. Now I'm using the full throw of the knob, and it's only adjusting that parameter within the range that I've set. I'm going to go to the Perform page because I want to show you one important thing to know about MIDI mapping the performance sliders. So let's map one. We'll map the lock for that slider to this pad. Now, when you're using these sliders on your device, it's really nice. We have this locking feature where they snap back to their default position because you typically want your filter centered, your pitch centered, no randomness, that kind of thing. And we turn on the locks if we want the slider to lock to the position that we set. One thing with MIDI controllers, though, is that they can't tell when you're letting go of a knob or a slider. You just move it, and when you let go, it stays there. So you're kind of always in locked mode. So what we decided to do is just use the lock mapping to snap you back to the default. So you can be messing around, do whatever you want, and then boom, as soon as you hit the lock, you're back to normal. One more big thing about MIDI input, we actually have two MIDI input modes. We'll go to this gear icon again, and we're going to switch from map mode here that we've been using to key mode. Now what key mode means is that most of your mappings will still be active, but not the notes. And that's because if we want to be, recording stuff onto our different channels, if we have notes mapped to, say, trigger pads or to lock our sliders, we're going to be activating those things when we're hitting the notes that they're assigned to. So in key mode, whichever track that you're active on, which you can, select either by tapping it in the mixer, or it could be the last pad that you touched. You could, go to your sequencer and choose what channel you're on there. So whichever one you're on, that will be playable chromatically using your MIDI notes. And if I switch to a different channel, that's the channel that will be receiving MIDI notes. And so we thought it would be good to have these two different modes, key and map, because map is more of a like live performance thing, and then in key mode, this is more for when you're like recording your sequences and you just want to change from one channel to another, play the thing that you want to play, and build your track. Now, just to quickly touch on MIDI output, you're going to want to have notes active on flip. And then notes active on whatever your MIDI interface is. If you send clock as well, then your MIDI device will be synced with flip. So for instance, you could press start and stop on flip, and then your device's sequencer would start and stop, that kind of thing. I won't go in too much detail about how to set this up with another device because it's kind of more dependent on what your device is. You know, you'll have to select the right input on your device, the right MIDI channel. I will just note that all of Flip's channels can independently send note data on channels 1 through 9. Velocity is also sent as well. And then you can also use each channel's automation lanes as MIDI CCs. And I'll just put up on screen what our CC assignments are. So for instance, sample start is CC number 9. So let's say I want to be on channel 5 and send some automation on CC 9 to whatever my connected MIDI device is. Well, I can go here, draw the automation I want, and as I play flip, this automation will be sent on MIDI channel 5, CC number 9. These MIDI features are part of the Flip 1.2 update, so definitely get that if you haven't already, and if you already own Flip, it is a free update. Hope this video was helpful for you, and have fun making music.